looking forward to 2020 already, particularly when it comes to cricket. A bizarre countdown is already on to April next year when Steve Smith's leadership ban will be lifted. And according to one former Australian captain, he saw enough in the Adelaide Test to believe that Smith is already asserting his authority under the captaincy of Tim Paine.
I'll tell you what I don't like to see. Steve Smith is moving a few fieldsmen around. I hate to see that. I always felt that it happened. England used to do it a bit, other blokes other than the captain, and I always felt it was whiteanting the captain.
Look, Steve Smith, we know he's not the captain, but he's been moving fielders. He's moving them again. There we go.
I only try and help Tim as much as I can, you know. He's doing a terrific job, but I give him suggestions and things like that. I only want the team to do well. I'm certainly not undermining him.
I don't mean any disrespect to anybody else that could captain Australia. I just think once Tim's time's up, I think that'll be prime time for Paddy to take over.
Yes, Ian Chappell's comments on Macquarie Sports Radio during that Adelaide Test certainly causing a stir. We've heard from Tim Paine on it, Steve Smith on it, Pat Cummins on it, as you heard there, Mark Taylor from Michael Clark as well. The captaincy, it's a burning issue, even though Australia cruising along nicely, 2-0 over Pakistan.
They are, and I think Steve Smith answered it more than adequately. I don't think Steve Smith's trying to white-ant Tim Paine at all, and I suspect that Tim and Steve are actually working together. Steve Smith's often at first slip next to Tim Paine, and I reckon Tim Paine is saying to Smithy, look, I've got keeping to worry about, particularly against the slow bowlers, and we saw that comment that Chappelli made, and I was actually on Macquarie Sports Radio with him at the time, was when the spinners were bowling and Nathan Lyon bowling. There's Steve Smith at first slip. I think Tim Paine said to him, if you see something, just go ahead and do it. Don't worry about coming to me, because I've got to worry about keeping Nathan Lyon, the batsman, what have you. So I don't think there's any white-anting going on. And if you listen to Chappelli's comments, he said he doesn't like it, and I understand that, I really do, because that's not the way he captained the side or would want to captain the side. But he did say England used to do it all the time. He found a player from his era that used to white-ant a captain. I don't know who they are, mind you, but he was referring to them. He wasn't saying Steve Smith white-anting the captain. He said he doesn't like other people moving the field, and I can accept that.
I feel like that comes down to the relationship of the players. Do they have a good relationship? I mean, Liz and I used to do that when we were vice-captain and captain. If there was something that I thought needed to happen in the attack end, I would make that call, because we had a good working relationship and respect in each other. But if you didn't, it could very well be seen to be the other way around. What is the relationship like?
Absolutely. And Tim Paine has said publicly that he said, I've got Steve Smith, I've got David Warner in the side. Why wouldn't I use their experience? Tim Paine has said that publicly. So I think he's spoken to Steve Smith and said, mate, you're the former captain. If you see something, you know, go ahead and do it. I suspect they obviously chat about it quite a bit, but setting fields to Nathan Lyon in particular, now, Steve Smith would, at first slip, would see angles and say, right, that one there, I think that he gestured to on that bit of footage, it would be a short cover. Just move 2 steps to the right. I don't think that's white-anting the captain. That's what Tim Paine would want him to do.
Brady, this is the issue that's not going to go away between now and April next year, though. It's been burring along for the last couple of months, regardless of the Aussie results.
Yeah, because that's when Steve can become captain again. If Tim Paine decides he wants to go. Like, I don't think they'll jettison Paine, no. But if he puts his hand up and says, I've had enough, and I think there's a lag in tests, there's not a lot scheduled for between April and the start of the next Australian summer. But don't underestimate, we heard Michael Clark say it just then, don't underestimate the little subtle push that's on for Pat Cummins. And I'll tell you why. Because while Cricket Australia has promoted this summer, or they're promoting the next T20 World Cup in a year's time, and obviously I do a lot of cricket stories and I'm involved in doing them, and I interviewed Steve at the airport the other day about Chappelli, so I see them a lot. Cummins is really being pushed by Cricket Australia as the clean-skinned front man for the game.
And if you look at what Pat Cummins is saying, he
never says no.
He never says no, does he? And he's like, oh, it'd be a great honour. And like, really, when you're reading between the lines, he's screaming out, yes, pick me, pick me. I think, though, that Tim Paine has earned the right, given what he's done with the cricket team since Sandpaper Gate, he's earned the right to pull the pin when he wants to pull the pin. If he wants to stay on for another summer, if his form still warrants it, then he has to be able to do that, Mark, because he has done something with his team that 12, 18 months ago we could not have thought possible.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with those comments. And I think that will happen. It all depends on Tim Paine, as you say, if his form is maintained and if his fitness is maintained. And I say that because he's already got a problem with, I believe, his ring finger on his right hand.
His hand didn't look right in Adelaide.
And that's, as a keeper, that could go like that tomorrow. And that could put him out for 6 months a year. He's 35 years old now. So, you know, as a keeper, he's not an old 35 in that he hasn't played a lot of cricket, but the fingers are sore, the body will get sore. He may finish in April, he may finish November next year. Australia have got to be ready, and I've always said publicly that I think Steve Smith should be available to captain Australia again, or will be available, and should be at least seriously considered. But Pat Cummins, sure.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot then. Who would you choose? You have to choose tomorrow. Tim Paine goes.
If they're all available, I'd choose Steve Smith.
Would you really?
I really would.
Why?
Because I think he's in a better position to captain the side. I think the players would like Steve Smith as captain. Not that I'm saying that Pat Cummins would not be liked. I always found it was easier as a batsman, particularly who doesn't bowl much, to be a captain, rather than a bowler who would potentially be a captain.
Gives you something to do while you're fielding, doesn't
Absolutely.
it? Can't get up for mischief.
Some big news this morning, Mark. The MCG Sheffield Shield match between Victoria and WA has been officially abandoned. Play was abandoned yesterday because of dangerous conditions on the pitch. We had two players, Sean Marsh and Marcus Stoinis, both undergoing concussion tests. The ball was coming at pace off the deck, unlike with what we've seen from the MCG, which has been under heavy criticism in the last few years for being dour, boring, not much to it. Has this been an overcorrection, and how much is the Boxing Day test in danger?
Well, the test is not in danger, but the type of surface is going to be in danger, because we all hated the Boxing Day test match a couple of years ago when England were out here.
Alistair Cook.
And it was a terrible game of cricket because the pitch bounced about so high and was very flat, nothing for the bowlers, and it was a boring draw. So obviously Matthew Page, the groundsman's out there thinking, OK, well, I've got to put a bit of juice back in it. Damien Hoff at the Adelaide Oval has got it dead right. He's able to produce grassy surfaces which are even. At the moment, the MCG, when they put grass on it, it's uneven. And that's what that surface was yesterday. So that's the concern going into Boxing Day. What does the groundsman do? Does he become more conservative, take the grass off it, take the moisture out of it, and we have a boring game? Or does he go for a bit of grass and risk what we saw yesterday?
Don Burke needs that job.
His boots at the moment. The WBBL final, it is today. There's been some great cricket leading up to this. And Mark, later we see the Adelaide Strikers, Brisbane Heat. It's at the Allan Border Field in Brisbane. You got a tip for it?
I think the Adelaide might be hard to beat. You've got Sophie Devine, who's New Zealander too. We had her on Macquarie Sports Radio the other day, chatting with her. She's playing...
She's in extraordinary
great form with the bat and ball.
Yep.
So she made 60-odd not out in the semi-final the other day, and they chased down the runs against the Renegades, I think it was, with overs to spare. She made 65. Grace Harris, this is the woman here hitting these sixes. She hit 4 sixes yesterday. So it's the Brisbane Heat, who are the holders from last year, against the Adelaide Strikers, who I'm just tipping. I think it'll be a good game.
OK, bring it on. Lots to talk about in the world of cricket. There's a 3-test series coming up against New Zealand, which starts later this week too. Don't go anywhere. You are